Hey, good. How about you, mate?
I'm good. I'm good. It's late, but I'm fine.
Awesome. Hopefully the brain still has a little bit of memory reserves in it to store some
Yeah,
stuff. We'll
I hope
try
so
to
too.
write everything down in the document as well. So in case some of it gets forgotten completely, you can read it tomorrow and then remember.
Yeah, thanks
Um,
very much. That's good. That's good.
awesome, man. So so ZVT is what we were going to start out with here, and we were focused a lot on kind of Hydralink Bane and everything. We're going to look through some replays potentially. Did you have a chance to find any replays recently?
Yeah, I just went through some of them. I found two. Um, Even though these are quite long games, think I think you can see where I'm trying to going to go to. Where I'm trying to go to. Um, I don't know if do you want an invite or something like that. So I found two replays. Where I go against the Mech player. And in one case, I think you can see my struggle in winning actually against the Mech player. So I always end up in a lot of back and forth if I'm lucky, and I do not lose directly. But then I
But you're
struggle to
also not
win.
winning, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, but then I struggle to win, although I'm ahead sometimes, and that's something I'm really struggling with. And then I headbutt into a lot of army and lose all my stuff or something like that.
No worries. Okay. If you can hop into chat channel Pig or Piggy, and oh, you're already in there. Can you shoot me an invite to
Oh
party,
yeah,
and start getting that replay hosted up once we're together in a party? I've just had my chat let me know that apparently the bracket for my 2v2 tournament, which is on tomorrow morning, says it's starting today, and I think that's just a little bit of confusion because my lovely mod who helped me make it is in Israel, and it's midnight Israel time, and obviously dates get very easily confused because often we
at
think, is
midnight
it
even.
midnight? Is it the day before or the day after? So thank you so much to the people in chat who are saying, what's happening with the tournament? What's going on? Apparently check-in's already gone open for it on the bracket, so I'm going to go in and just try and edit that now and just fix that up really quickly because it is tomorrow is when it's meant to be, but let me just fix that up. How do I edit that? Okay, okay. Abort check-in. We should be able to get this going. Thanks for your patience, Michael.
No, I'm fine. That's
While
fine.
we do that, since this is our first coaching session,
Yeah,
you answered and put in the document all the answers to the mechanical questions as well, right?
yeah, yes, I did so.
You did? Okay, fantastic. So we'll blitz through those. Once we get the replay open, we'll kind of quickly go through those so I
I Okay.
refresh
I
my memory on
promoted
how
you
you
as a
play.
host, right?
Ah,
I
yes,
promoted
lobby
you as a host,
host.
so
Fantastic. And I'll
exactly.
be hopping in to start that in just a second. So
Okay.
that should be good. Yes, check and opens 30 minutes before startup time. All right, we'll make it 7 a.m. start. Okay. Hopefully that works out. So thank you people in chat who are letting us know about that. I think that's fixed now. June 27th at midnight Israel time. Check in half an hour before. Fantastic.
Okay, so
Fantastic.
it's not today, but it's tomorrow or so.
Yeah, it's meant to be tomorrow, so I'm just kind of fixing that up quickly. There we go. That should be good, guys. Thank you for your patience. I'll look at it again once we're done coaching and we can double check everything's okay. But for now, emergency averted, check-in aborted. Sorry, everyone who's already signed up is getting emails saying, don't forget to check in for the tournament. So that's my bad, guys. All right, Michael, so awesome. Thank you for making me the host. We'll get this replay started up. And I guess if we wanted to have key goals for today, Mech is the biggest one. Having a good game plan for actually closing the game out and taking really good fights and denying bases and winning. And I'll just write. I always like to put the notes at the top of the document so everything steadily shifts downwards. So the most recent things are at the top. If you find you like a different format, obviously these are your notes, so you do whatever you want with them. As long as we leave this info at the top with, race and league and all the rest, right?
Yes, I will leave it as is and maybe make it a separate document if I want to. I'll see.
So plan for today, I'll check your mechanics just to get acclimated with that. That shouldn't take long because I'm pretty sure I glanced through and it was all good. I just want to do it again because I do get a lot of people doing sessions and I don't want to accidentally think you're someone else doing something different, weird that I meant to tell you to change. So I'll check mechanics. After that, we're going to double check our ZvT. We're going to look at ZvT versus Mech, and we're going to look at ways of taking, basically having a more solid game plan of what the way to win is and that sort of thing. And you felt like you were already pretty good with bio. You just wanted to kind of work on refining that. How are you feeling against bio?
Exactly. So against bio, I think I have not the best game plan, but I have a game plan, and I think I often I can win. So
there's a possibility.
It all depends a bit on the surrounds that you can create and attack the army and stuff like that.
Okay.
That's the most important thing that wins me games, or that can win me games mostly, I think. And of course some parts of drop defense or something like that. Which is at the moment it's not that heavy. So the drop activities from Terran are not that often seen in my games. At least.
All right. Well, hopefully we get a chance to go over a bio replay towards the end. And of course, in future sessions, depending on what you want to do, it's always your coaching session. So if you're like, I really like just going through replays and having you could have every time you play a game and you're confused or you have a question, try to always save and label the replay for any future sessions. But some people like to do sessions where it's just that, going through heaps of replays, asking, zooming to a specific point, asking a specific question, bam, move on to the next one. Other people like us to do a bit more live practice, where I'm kind of writing a lot of detailed notes while I watch you play, and then we're talking about the really most important big effect changes to make in between the games so that you can put them into practice. So any future sessions, just let me know. But for today, I reckon we'll probably just be kind of looking at the replays and going through and writing out as many notes as we can. What do you reckon?
Okay, that sounds good. Sounds good to me.
I'm really sorry, Michael. We're having a lot of distractions today. Fuza, the absolute Finnish StarCraft retired pro gamer legend himself, has dropped into chat and is asking me about casting an event. I absolutely might be down. That's not today, right? Can you do me a big favor, mate, and just shoot me an email there? And I will answer that this afternoon when my stream's done, about 6-7 hours, Fuza. Is that cool? Thank you so much, my friend. Tomorrow, if it's okay. Yeah. When's the tournament? The tournament's not tomorrow, is it, Fuza? If it's tomorrow, then I need to know ASAP. Let me know in chat when the actual qualifier is, if it's in the next few days. But otherwise, we should be good. 27. What does that mean? That means 20th of July. Okay, yeah, that's a month from now. Okay, cool. Yes. Thank you, Fuser. That sounds great. I'm definitely interested in that, and I assume it's all doing it on my own stream and stuff. But yeah, shoot me the email. I'll get back to you ASAP. Thanks, friend. All right, Michael. So, as I said, I'm going to ignore the gameplay for a second, even though things are heating up and your build's already getting into the action.
Okay.
Mechanics first. We've got to stick to the order that we wrote down. So nice. I'm scrolling down. There we go. Beautiful mechanics. So let's start with your hotkey layout first of all, and then I'll look at the mechanics. So number 1, main army. You've written 2 Banelings, or splitting your army against Terran, or actually goes into Broodlords later on in the game. 3 is your air units, muters or corruptors. Sometimes it's a defense group with Broodlords available against Terran, or you split army against. Cool. So you've got a lot of shifting control groups, which I like. I think that's really good. Some people just have never developed that skill, so they're like, no, this is always this on this key, and they're just not comfortable with shifting it around. And that's good that you've got that. Just if you ever find yourself getting a bit too muddled up in the late game, or when your hotkeys are shifting around, just make sure you lock down a rule for it a little bit more if you do start finding yourself getting a bit confused because you're shifting your hotkeys too much. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so too.
Sweet. You've got a defense and creep queen hotkey, which is fantastic on number 4. Nice accessible one. You have a special hotkey W for swarm hosts or vipers. What about, do you have a Nidus worm? Do you put Nidus on W when you use that, or?
No, I don't. Actually, at the moment, I think it sometimes it's on 0, but that doesn't make any sense. So I do not Nidus that often.
I can tell.
So I don't have a special key for it yet.
Yeah, I mean, often when you are Nidusing, especially if it's like a cheesy one, you could obviously just put it on number 2 or 3, right? Because you're usually unloading just one army control group out of it if it's a cheesy one. Obviously, if it's something like Swarmhost Nidus, yeah, maybe finding a slightly more accessible key, like 8 or 7 or something. Even using 0 is not the end of the world, because at least then you don't have to like click back on the minimap. Still not great though. But not the most important thing for now. I was just curious about that. All things considered, this is a pretty good split of your control groups. And yeah, I like it. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so control grouping your eggs. Yeah, you're always doing that, as I would expect. Okay. Okay, injecting. So you're using camera locations. F1 to F5. Box click, box click, box click. Okay, really methodical. Overlords units creep. Cool, so you've actually even added the macro cycle to that, which is really nice.
Yeah, I know that you look at on that as well, so... Yeah, I got it from you, so it's in there. Although awesome. the Overlords come first in my cycle. So.
Which absolutely makes sense. That's a lot of people like to do it that way. I still like to do it the other way, but I find that it's personal preference. There's absolutely, it's like equal upside and downside to both sides. So I like it that way. So that's good. You've included Alt and Shift. Oh, I remember reading this. Yeah. These units are then only present in one group. That's fine. You include... Yeah. Okay, cool. So they're both coupled. Okay, yes. Fantastic. All right, so your mechanics are really nice in terms of techniques. I don't see any big glaring errors or issues.
Written down, they look good.
Yeah, how we actually use them, on the other hand, it's like, these are the techniques I use. It's like, you can have the fanciest tool set in the world. Like, you get a real shiny, fancy hammer and everything. You get this nice set of nails. You got all these fancy tools, and you don't actually know how to, use them that well to fix things, maybe. But we'll see how it goes. I think it's pretty good. At least we're using the correct techniques, which means every game we're kind of building muscle memory towards getting better in that regard. So this game here is definitely a game versus Mech. It's going to be Hellion Heavy Banshee. He's still building Banshees? No, it's just a Hellion Banshee opening. And oh yeah, he's still building Banshees. So it is going to be a real pure battle mech style. Fantastic. This is actually really timely. I just posted a little Instagram highlight video. Yes, oh, you saw that? Yeah.
no, that's I didn't see that one. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying. I just posted one where it was me flanking a battle mech army, and I was swearing a lot in this clip because it's me finally getting Banelings and Hydras flanking a Cyclone Hellion army in the middle of the map, and they weren't even watching, so they tried to walk right through the Hydra Baneling, and you can tell I'm swearing so much because I'm so frustrated because this battle mech player has been picking at me all game long and just beating me. And then one flank just like annihilates his entire army almost for free because it's so fragile and tears it apart. So we're definitely going to talk about flanking and why that is basically just how you beat a battle mech army. If you ever get behind them and they can't retreat, they are a terrible, terrible army. Really fragile, really weak, and Banelings are also really key. But before we get to that, let's talk solid opening, because I look at this game and I feel like we are a bit short on that drone count. So let's watch from about a minute 30 and let's walk through your exact build order that you've written down here. So build order wise versus a Hellion opening. Let's see how well you stick to your build and what we can change. Because I think we missed quite a few drones on this one. I'm not sure exactly. So you normally pull all 3 off gas for ling speed. You go for a third base at about 31. Oh, and you've even written it down, like, because normally it times out just between the 2 queens popping. Okay, yep. So it's inject main, build third, inject natural, get your queen, an extra queen
Yeah,
at the
exactly.
natural, build an overlord right after that queen. Very important, that overlord, so we don't get supply blocked on 36 for too long. Then 2 more overlords on 36. We put 3 eggs into gas at some point there. Okay. All right. Yeah, so this looks okay. Let me actually watch the game. This seems like a good order as far as I can tell. We're definitely being very careful with the timing we're building the extra Zerglings and the Baneling Nest, and that might be something we push back just a little bit, but we'll see. So in this particular game, we're doing a good job of keeping that lava down. We're about to start spreading creep on our natural. Let's see how we go here. This is looking pretty nice. Injects popping out in the main. We're immediately re-injecting. And we're going to drop a creep tumor on the natural. We started a few drones. We want to be starting a few more in a moment. We did already rally those onto the gas. They're going to go on there just after 3:30. Very nicely timed. We just forgot Ling speed this game, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that something you sometimes delay to get the third hatch down faster and then you forget afterwards? Or do you think it
No,
was just a
I
complete
never,
forgetting?
I was just forgetting it. Really annoying. It's really annoying.
I think
That's all I can say.
that's better than if you said you'd purposely skipped it and you're like, oh, I skipped it to get the third hatch down faster. Because the thing is, I find when people start doing habits like that, then they forget more because like you're just kind of adding variance into your opening. It's better to just be like, nah, just always stick with the same first few minutes so we have the same consistent pattern. Because our opponent's going to throw 37 different things at us, right? Every opponent's different. We don't want to change our own things unless we really have a good reason to, right? If we think something's really cool, fun, or useful, we can change it, but otherwise it's not that important. So anyways, you're continuing to drone here. Now, we did start a 4th queen quite early. So what timing do you have for extra queen production here normally? Like, what do you use to decide when to start this next queen?
The next queen actually should come.
You queued it up really early, actually, because you were even supply blocked and unable to build it. Let's see when we started that. Because this 3rd queen's going to pop out at the natural, and check it out. You're going to queue up a 4th queen, like, immediately. Yeah.
Where is it?
Just
Isn't
here
that
at your natural. No,
Isn't
that's your...
that
No,
that's
you're
the 4th already?
It's the 4th queen already, yeah. Super early. As soon
Oh
as
yeah. Wait. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay. At a 43 supply, I usually have the queen and an overlord, and then I add up to my 20 links, and after that I will have usually. I'm sorry for that one here, but
Oh, no
usually
worries.
then I have 50 gas for the bane link. So that lines up into another. So it's overlord queen or queen overlord at the natural after the 3rd queen is popping, and yeah, like I said, 20 links, and then baning nest.
Okay.
And from there on, I drone the 3rd. Yeah, and
Right.
and at the 2nd and the 3rd, I build constant queens from that time on. I skip
How many
the.
queens do you go up to in total? Where do you stop?
That's a good question. I don't have a number. I don't have a number for that. Yeah.
You probably only need 6 queens, maybe 7 at most, because you're doing a very fast Baneling Nest and a very high Zergling style. So a general rule is we don't want to have tons of queens and a fast Baneling tech and lots of Zerglings because they all kind of do the same thing. So we end up kind of over defending on the ground if we go for all of those, and obviously not pushing our economy. So if it turns out our opponent's doing a 1 gas fast 3rd command center, and then their 3rd base is landed by, 5 minutes fully, and it's already got a lot of SCVs on it, and there's double medevac marine pressure, and there's 2 factories pumping out tanks, and we haven't got our 4th up yet, and we're still adding gases, and, it's just, we're going to drown from there. We're too far behind. So it's something where we do need to push our economy a little bit, and definitely there's like an erring on the side of safety that happens for different players. And for you, it seems like... definitely it's quite a quick Baneling Nest. I'm going to look at it and I'm going to say this is an acceptable build and you could definitely jump way up the ranks with this, but I'm kind of right now I'm hunting for the highest impact change that would just make your opening give you a little bit more economy, and I don't think there's one that's like super readily apparent because your build is not bad. It is quite good. One thing here is we definitely should get a second creep tumor going early because you need one to spread to that third base, which we haven't done a good job of spreading. You can see that's been idle for a while. And we went up and started injecting the third base straight away. We would have much rather that queen just put down an extra creep tumor so it's spreading out the front. Do you normally go straight for 2 creep tumors pretty early?
No, it's creep tumor with the second inject with that queen. Creep tumor and then directly walk over to the third. So so when the third is ready, I can directly inject the third.
Okay, so we're going to delay injecting third base, and we're going to focus on getting 3 creep tumors out ASAP. Yeah.
So that's the second creep tumor. Where's the third one? Or should I not inject at all?
Don't inject the third base. So that queen, she's your creep queen, and just don't inject the third base for a little bit longer. So basically check this. Let's watch her. First tumor, and then she should just wait there. And this next 25 energy she gets, she should be putting down another creep tumor right now. And that's at the same time, that times out where you also can spread the existing creep tumor. So then they're on the same timer, which is really nice because we always want all our creep to be on the same timer wherever possible so we can batch it, do it all in one big go. So then we could have 2 creep tumors, and then you could even, with this next 25 energy after that, which you're going to get very soon, you'll see here, just after 4 minutes, you could put down a third creep tumor out front this third base to get some creep out front of that to give us more space against things like Hellbats. Or if there's a big gap between your main and your natural on some maps, there's like a really big gap. Some people like to put that creep tumor there just to connect the main and the natural so the queens can get up to defend battle cruisers, liberators, that sort of thing. So,
yeah, that's probably what I prefer. So I often connect the first and the natural.
Cool. You could even do that with the second creep tumor if you really wanted to. So it's up to you. But that would be down by now, and then from here you would be a bit more focused on injecting and whatnot. You don't particularly need transfuses with how you're playing. You are a little bit vulnerable to. Not really. I was going to say you're a little bit vulnerable to battle cruisers, but I actually think you're okay.
Yeah, I was thinking so too. Yeah.
I mean, because you do speed up your queen production, you'll be somewhat okay. So yeah, here's the problem is right now you're building spores because it's time to build spores, and you're building a lair, but like we still don't have minerals on our third. So yeah, okay. At this point, I see that like we're kind of following super safe pro gamer timings in some regards, and we're just being a bit too safe. So we're definitely going to cut a corner. So okay, we've got to make a decision. I don't like changing people's builds unless I'm really confident. So I wanted to spend a good 10 minutes exploring your opening and kind of getting in tune with it there. But now I'm going to say we need to make a choice. Okay, so what do you want to focus on? Basically, I want you to either cut out. So we're either cutting the fast Baneling Nest and going for a few more queens. So we're going queen focused defense. So choice, do we want to go queen focused defense, cut the Baneling Nest? Or do we want to keep the Baneling Nest, keep the Bane Nest, but focus on less safety Zerglings? Yeah, either way, we're going to focus on safety Zerglings. So it's just going to be, but your queens get delayed a bit, which is kind of what you're doing right now. But either way, we need to delay the Zerglings. So first things first, keep the build the same way it is with the fast Baneling Nest for safety, or instead go for more queens earlier. Which one do you prefer? Do you want to just stick with what you've got? Both are really good. It's just whatever you prefer. Do you like the way you're doing it?
That would be the you mean with the Baneling Nest but less queens, right? That's the one that I'm
That's what you're already doing right
more
now. Yeah.
Yeah, then let's keep it like that.
Okay, so we're going to keep the Baneling Nest, and rather than it being a choice, what are we going to do? The key, I'm going to change it from choice to key. Less slings. More focus on droning the third. So if we want to imagine good macro play is balancing on a razor's edge, right? Our defense. So we want to balance our defense on a razor's edge. All right. So what we're going to do, what we mean by that is, if we go back a little bit here, we're building these lings way too early. Now, there are scenarios where getting those lings out nice and early is good, but we're building just a few too many. So we're starting these lings at this very, very early point. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to come up with a rule here, and we'll see how this goes. So, rule. Go up to... We're just going to try to rely on 10 Zerglings, okay? Now, this is something which is sometimes going to make you lose a lot of drones because you're not used to microing your lings quite as much because you're used to having so many extra lings, you can just A-move them. So this is going to be a little bit of a learning experience when you're up against someone who dives their Hellions and your Zerglings happen to just... You A-move them and they happen to line up and the Hellions roast almost all of them in one volley. That's something we can micro to avoid, and we can preemptively position our Zerglings every game to make sure that doesn't happen. So we're going to go up to 10 Zerglings. So with your build order, what's the timing on that? I think it was like... in your build order, you'd said 43 supply. You go up to 20 lings in total. You get 8 more pairs of lings. If you still got 4 or 6 lings from the other game, you're only going to get 2 or 3. You're only going to get about 3 pairs of lings from now on, okay? So we're going to actually be really light on the Zerglings. So we're going to go up to 10 to 12 Zerglings, somewhere like that. Yep.
10 to 12. Okay. I cannot hear every word you say. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, okay. Is it cutting out or?
Yeah, it's cutting some words out. So I'm just sometimes. So I just want to make sure. So 10 to 12 links.
Okay. You know what?
So
we're on a Sydney server right now for Discord, so that's probably it. So yeah, just let me know every single time. Is it every sentence? Like right now, is it cutting out even as I speak?
Yes, sometimes it does.
Okay, is it just like half a second here and there, or?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we'll change the server to Central Europe and see how that goes. Testing.
But can you hear me now?
Yeah, you still sound fine. Do I sound better?
It sounds like the same by now. So maybe it gets better or worse while we're talking. So let's see.
Okay. I mean, it should be fine. Let me just take a look at my own voice settings as well. Windows updates can definitely default things. I'm going to turn my own sensitivity down as well, just to make sure that's activating my voice a little bit easier. And hopefully that helps us out. But I think it's just an internet issue.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay. So unfortunately, that connectivity is a bit shit. All right. So anyway, in the document, you can see I'm writing here, rule. So we're going to go to 10 to 12 Zerglings. We're going to keep them spread on both sides of the natural hatchery. Now, what are we thinking of with these Zerglings? They are the net, okay? They are the net to catch the Hellions if they try to dart past the queens, okay? So
yes,
we're just going to try and have a few less Zerglings there, and we're going to be a little bit more focused on droning third mineral line as fast as possible, okay? So this is the stage of the game. If we look here in your replay, everything looks exactly the same up to this point. You build these 6 lings just for a little bit of safety, sure. And then you go back to droning and building more queens and your baneling nest and all that sort of stuff, right? But there would be a lot more droning towards that third base because that's our goal. If we can drone that third mineral line, that's everything, okay? And even if we have to delay our spore crawlers by like 10 seconds or something, whenever we've got that lava sitting there, we want to be trying to build drones as much as possible. Now, there's one other thing. Sometimes people sit their Hellions at home and are really defensive. So I want to talk to you really quickly while we're on this whole, the threat of the Hellions and being safe. Let's understand a Terran build order just a little bit more. This is a really good little exercise just to keep us thinking about timings and exactly how threatening a Terran can be. So if we look at your Terran opponent, he's actually going to be going for a barracks first before gas. And that's a 20-second delay on his Hellions. So with this opening, no, he actually ended up going gas first. It was just slightly delayed. His Hellions were late though. Okay, he fucked up his build. Great. Not a good example. Not a good example.
It's beer time. It's beer time. So.
He's got a stein in his hand, and he's just takes his hand off the keyboard, macroing every now and then to have a big swig. Yeah. No, he's actually on point with his first 2 Hellions. He just pauses after that. He didn't macro quite perfectly. He's macroing pretty well, but just there's always naturally going to be downtime. So basically, these two Hellions, I mean, technically they could pop 10 seconds earlier at about just after 3:10. But I think for us, we're going to say, cool, we're not going to play pro gamers very often. So basically, two Reapers, a Reaper and two Hellions can be out at 3:10 at the earliest off an expand build. Do you know how long Hellions take to build?
No, I don't.
21 seconds, and it's a reactor, so that means in 21 seconds, there can be another two. So just after 3:40, there can be 4 Hellions and a Reaper. So if at 3 minutes 40, there can be 4 Hellions and a Reaper, and then they have to cross the map and get to you. And this is the fastest possible 4 Hellions, by the way. So if we look at if we go to 3:40, when the fastest those 4 Hellions could be out, we see you're already building your Zerglings at that moment. So you're always going to have Zerglings before the fastest 4 Hellions and a Reaper could hit your base. Which means you're being safe. And we can look at that and say good timing on your part. We can also say we're probably being too safe. 90% of the time, our opponent's probably not going to hit us with Hellions until 30 seconds after that with a 4 Hellion run by. Or at least 15 seconds after that. So we start to see, okay, that's cool. Not just that, though. 4 Hellions and a Reaper is not the same as 6 or 8 Hellions. It's important to differentiate between these, right? So don't get me wrong. If someone runs in with 8 Hellions and you've got 10 Zerglings as a net, it's not much of a net, right? It's like trying to catch a gigantic 300-pound man by throwing a little piece of, I don't know, fucking throwing a little towel on him or something, you know? You're trying to catch the Rock and you throw a towel on his face and you're like, yeah, it's not going to work, man. But by that point, we've got Baneling tech and we've got more queens up front and, you know, and we can add a few more Zerglings if we need. So I think it's one of these things where we look at this and we say, okay, cool. So even these initial Zerglings, we could potentially delay those by just a few seconds if we wanted to. So there's a constant little bit of decision making that goes on with this sort of stuff where we can look at this as your core safe version of the build. Okay? So your default is the safe version. Now, why is that important? It's because we want to think about where we can adjust and react. Sometimes you play a guy who went Barracks Gas, which means his Hellions are 20 seconds later. His first Hellions aren't starting until 3 minutes 10. His first 2 Hellions pop at 3 minutes 30 because his factory is delayed by a lot. Now, that's huge because that means he's not going to have 4 Hellions until about 3 minutes 50 at the absolute earliest, usually about 4 minutes, he'll have 4 Hellions, right? Now, with those players, and just some players in general, they like to sit at home with their Hellions all game. They're not in your face. Notice this guy, he lost his Reaper? No, he kept it alive. But his Reaper hasn't joined with the Hellions. He's not really doing any pressure. So something you could even do, and I'm writing a bonus points rule with this whole Zergling defense. There's always bonus points things around here, which is like a really high level thing pros will do every game. And as you get more practiced at the build, you want to add these in. These aren't the things you work on your first time changing an opening, but once you're comfortable with an opening, these are the things you focus on to get those extra levels of value. In this case, Hellions sitting at home, or only two coming across the map. No real threat. And you can basically skimp on Hellion, on your Zerglings. You can skimp on Zerglings really hard. Maybe skip the extralings entirely. And only build them reactively when he moves out onto the map. Since you're a player who likes this Overlord at the front of the base, maybe that's something you like to do, is, you know, you see the Hellions leave and then you build Zerglings reactively. And unless it's the smallest map in the map pool or you happen to be supply blocked, usually you get Zerglings out in time. Most of the time they don't even dive in with those Hellions. They just go poke the front of the creep and then go back. So we can like come up with these bonus point rules for like, oh, you know what? Everyone is afraid of Ling run bys because all the Zergs are cheesing Terrans with like just waiting with 40 Zerglings till the Hellions come across the map and then they run into their base with them. So all the Terrans are sitting at home with their Hellions every game. I'm going to adjust my build and I'm just going to skip building extra Zerglings unless I actually see them coming across the map. On the other hand, you can also do it in the other way. Bonus points. Reaper and Hellion and 2 Hellions already at your base super fast. Third queen is in trouble taking damage, right? That's the opposite side of flexibility. What if this freak has hit innovation levels of timing and he's at your base at 3 minutes 10 with a Reaper and 2 Hellions? They're picking off your third queen at the front. She's out on her own. You see this queen out at your third and you're like, oh shit. Well, first of all, she shouldn't be out there on her own, but what can we adjust, right? And in that scenario, something I often do is I inject with these 2 queens, and I actually bring my 2 injecting queens to the front. I throw them into my creep queen hotkey even before starting my next 2 queens. And I might miss half an inject timing or something like that on each hatchery, but I know that this sort of player is really focusing on their first Reapers and Hellions getting to my base very quickly, so I want to pull the extra queens to the front so that I don't get my queens chipped away and killed early on, because that's like a really nasty spiral. If someone really is focused on their Hellions and Reapers microing, coming across the map, that can be really dangerous. I don't know how much you'll face that. That's an example I face if I'm playing a really high-level Terran player. Then I'll face that. Maybe it happens to you, maybe it doesn't, but these are just the sort of examples of different little adjustments we can adjust to.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen that often. So with also 2 Hellions and a Reaper, that already doesn't happen that often to me. They often wait for the 4th 4 Hellions, at least.
Cool. And that's, so that's something where focusing on being greedier is probably going to pay more dividends for you at the moment, right? The first bonus points that we talked about there. But that's cool to already be thinking about. That can make a big difference. I like the Ling speed starting as the fight starts. This is like so common, right? It's always like you go to stop a big mid-game engagement and you go for Baneling speed. You see Baneling speed hit the production tab right as the fight's starting because you're like, oh no! Thankfully, though, Baneling's really good versus Hellbats. And when we saw a good bit of experience with how you pulled back, morphed the Banelings, clicked the Banelings on the Hellbats. So that was pretty well done there. Awesome. Okay, so going up to 10 to 12 Zerglings, really key, and focusing on droning that third base. I wanted to go back to that point because...
I have one question. Usually I send 3 links to scout, so at the third and at the main attack path. So that's usually 2/3 possible. There place my 2 links and 1 on the attack path. So then I would end up in only having 9 defense links.
When do you send those across normally? Like just when link speed finishes?
Too early.
I think
probably too early.
If your Overlord's covering it, you don't really need to. Like if you want to just put, I guess a link on the third is always nice. Like that's always good, right? To see if they go do something greedy, like build it on expansion. But we probably don't need spotters on the map if you're doing this Overlord at the front. Now, if you choose instead to use that Overlord for a sacrifice, which is a pretty good idea, not necessary for you because you play very safe anyway with the fast Baneling Nest. So you probably don't need it because you're doing, good Baneling Nest, good spore timing. But if you choose to do that, then you don't have the Overlord at the front. Yeah, a Ling at the front would be okay. But I've written 10 to 12 Zerglings in your document, so if it's a little bit relaxed. If you go up to 14 is like the absolute most I want you to go up to, but take into account any early losses you've had, okay? So hopefully you keep your early Lings alive as much as possible, and we can use them for defense, because you really don't need too much scouting outside of your Overlords, and that should be good. But let's go look at this minute here. This is the really important minute where we would need you to be droning that third. So think about these Lings you're building. Cool. The first like 6, 8 maybe is fine. And then after that, we could actually be using those all as drones to that third already. But does it feel safe? No. And this is the conundrum you and every other Zerg player gets into in this matchup against Hellions. They're like, oh, but I don't feel safe with that hatch. So first things first, how do we protect that third base, okay? How do we feel safe droning the third? Third base protection. And this is the absolute key of us getting into an unstoppable position in this matchup of good early game macro. So, step 1 is creep. This is one you already know, and I'm sure you normally do better than this game. This game, we just forgot to spread that creep tumor, but we should have creep spread, right? Creep connecting bases and going forward, obviously. Besides that, your Overlord coverage is the next most important thing. So your Overlords are very far back. Make sure you're on everyone's camera right now. And you're going to notice your Overlords give you a little bit of vision, but not a lot of vision. We don't have a lot of time from Hellions entering your vision to you being able to move and respond. So we actually want those Overlords a little bit further outside your bases. And even if a Viking comes, you should have your creep a little bit further out, and you should be able to just move your queens forward to save those Overlords. If you do lose an Overlord to a Viking, not the end of the world. Having vision to see when Hellions go in, 1,000 times more important, because if we're not in position and Hellions come in and kill 20 drones, that can end the game. But if we lose one Overlord to a Viking, because we're a little bit slow to get our queens down there to cover it, it's not a big deal. It's a small loss. It's something which can still be stopped if we get quick though. So try to really focus on, remember, after your Overlord or 2 Overlords on the other side of the map, there's always outside your natural, outside your third, and then ones like that to spot Liberators coming in. And you should also have one down here to spot Liberators coming in, right? Those edges. And as long as you have that vision, you're going to get lots of warning of where the Hellions are. And I sometimes like to put the Overlords really far out. Like on a map like this, where they can come up 2 very different angles, your natural and your third, it's kind of hard for you to get between those. I might put my Overlords very far out. I might put one Overlord all the way out here just to see which direction they go. So I could, Overlord has really far sight vision, and that way I've got plenty of time to react. The other thing I might do against a Hellion opening is I might put my Baneling Nest and my Evo Chamber, or my double Evo Chamber, just walling off that side of the base. Just so I only need to worry about the third base. And that makes it really so much easier to defend. Is that something you do at all?
No, never.
I think for this map, really good.
It's not the reason. It's just how I never did it, so I never thought about it, to be honest.
Most people don't.
But you said it's against Hellion openings only, or because against Bio it will be sniped away, right?
Yes. I mean, obviously, they can still go into Bio after the Hellion opening, but yeah, you wouldn't want to do it against a 2-1-1 and they just walk up the ramp and kill both your upgrades or something. It's just for the very early stage. After that early stage, you would break the rocks down, even against Mech, probably, because you want to obviously be able to get down there to defend it. You don't want to wall yourself in. But yeah, nice way to kind of limit that. So anyways, if you'd have built those less dudes back at 345 onwards, we would actually have a few more drones going towards this third straight away. And there's a moment where it's always like a little bit dicey feeling, right? Where your queen count's not that high yet. You're about to have another creep queen. But if we had our creep connected over there, the Overlord's a bit further out, and then we start droning that third, and then we drop the Baneling Nest like you do here, that's fine, Baneling Nest, and then we keep building extra queens, which we should be doing, but we're just kind of going drones, drones, drones. You see you got 6 lava onto that third, queens, drones, and kind of alternating that. And that third base, if we could get that mineral line most of the way saturated by 5 minutes, it's going to be pretty huge. Now, you do end up doing okay, but notice how your main base is down to just 14 workers. Your natural down to just 15 workers because of these buildings we've been building. So even though you do a good job of droning afterwards, if we can get that started just a little bit earlier in your games, it's going to be a real head start for you, because the big thing that obviously we want to make sure we get going is the macro hatch and the 4th base and getting this creep spread nice and far out the front as well. So I think that'd be really, really huge. I think overall, not a bad opening, but I think if we just stay a little bit lighter on the Zerglings, a little bit further out with the Overlord positioning, those are going to be the 2 biggest changes so far.
Okay. The attack that we are... So I got that. The attack that we are seeing right now, that's already a bit later, right? Because I think with 10 links, it is hard to defend 8 Hellbats.
Lings aren't actually important at all. The Lings are your most useless unit here. So we would actually, if we knew it was a Hellbat attack, we'd much rather have these Zerglings on the other side of the map, hitting his natural or his third base and counter-attacking, because they're more useful there. So we were very slow to react here. And the reason here is you didn't have enough warning. We're not always going to react perfectly. We're not Serral. So check this out. The Overlord positioning I was talking about earlier actually even plays into this timing. I talked about it in terms of Hellion timings, but you don't actually have vision. We should have our Overlord where that Viking is, basically. Like, we should have seen these Hellbats morphing, and our Banelings then would have been morphing even earlier, right? And not just that, our queens could already be over here a little bit quicker as well. And what you want to do is spread those in a bit of an arc. Unfortunately, you see here our queens kind of get very clumped up. Like, we accidentally leave a queen at the front. I think maybe she wasn't on our control group. I think that's what happened.
That's possible that she was, inject queen from the hatch or something like that.
Whereas if these Banelings were done 5 seconds earlier, those queens would just spread out. They could, like, your queens could all be fighting right now and killing this so much easier. And this would just make things calmer, because right now we're floating 1,500 minerals, right? So ideally, we would be like, cool, we've got the queens in position, the Banelings are already rolling in, move the queens. Like, even now, we don't really want to use these Zerglings. I would rather the Zerglings, like, he's kind of spread out, so it's not the worst, but because those Hellbats are still kind of paired up a little bit, it's kind of awkward. Obviously, the worst thing is we don't have ling speed, so we don't even close with it that quickly. Like, it's usually okay to jump on spread out Hellbats. That one was kind of nasty. But, like, we want to have been able to deal with this where we looked away during the fight. Ideally, we click, like, the Banelings are ready. We go, oh, this is easy. And we literally stop looking at the fight. And we go macro hatch, drop a 4th base, hold down that drone key. Let's build 20 more drones. You know, like, if we were able to do that here, it's just a game-winning position already. So I think definitely the Overlords being a bit further out, giving you more time to react would be huge here. Would be massive.
Yeah.
So let's see. You go Evos, you start taking a gas and more gas at your 3rd. One problem here is we forgot to reset our rally points on our bases. So whenever you get to the point where your 3rd gets saturated, you've got to remember to go to each hatchery and change your main base to its own mineral line and your natural to its own mineral line. Otherwise, we end up with this problem here. Do you sometimes remember to do that with the rally points?
Yes, sometimes I do. Yeah,
okay.
That's
Let's try and remember that always then. So we'll try to make that as a rule then. Rule, 3 base saturated every single time. Let's try and remember that. Every time, change main and natural rally. Because we waste so much APM doing this otherwise. What you have to do now with moving your drones around, it's such a waste of APM, and we all end up having to do it. Change main and natural rally to their own mineral lines. The big thing we're missing here is okay, so finally we've gotten 2 macro hatches, which is great, and a 4th base there. Okay, finally. But yeah, the delay on that is actually quite big as well. And that's something which is interesting because that's something where it's just like being able to more comfortably just kind of slap away our opponent's Hellbat pressure means all of this stuff would have gotten started earlier, right? And that it's something where it's not like this was a huge mistake on our part. We did start getting, going in the right direction. But definitely something which just could have been a little bit smoother. Now, the one thing I've really noticed in this game, and I feel like it's probably because ZvT, especially against Mech, sounds like it's your uncomfortable matchup at the moment. Your creep is all on very different timers. Like, you just spread a creep tumor on the north, but we didn't spread the middle one. We then put down fresh tumors, and then we spread this other middle one. So I'm going to fast forward and watch your creep spread, because I want to watch this habit, and I feel like it's going to be really inconsistent and disorganized. So I don't think it's...
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't think it's like an APM restraint. I think it's more of like a mental organization restraint where you've got to be patient enough to just go through and spread creep on all fronts. Come back a minute later, spread creep on all fronts. And we don't need to do it perfectly, but we definitely do need to do it. Oh no, we've got... Okay, let's find the next time we spread creep. I'm ignoring everything else. We're just focusing on that because we want to focus on that pattern. Unfortunately, your opponent is harassing you a lot. Come on. When's the next creep spread gonna happen? Okay. Yeah, perfect. Oh, let's see. Yeah, we didn't spread it on the north. Check it. So, we see the pattern there, and this is exactly what I was expecting. Yeah. You started in the middle, right? So what you want to think of is creep is like a sandwich. Have you ever eaten a sandwich from the middle first? No, you go from a corner. Exact same thing, because otherwise you're going to eat through the sandwich. It doesn't make sense. So that's what happened here, because you started in the middle. Obviously, everything's a bit chaotic with the harassment, and then you move down to one side, and we forgot about the north. We forgot about the top side here. Yeah. I'm going to see if you remember it in the next 10, 20 seconds. Let's see. So we build units. We go back to our production, but we realize we're supply blocked. So we build 1 roach. And then we build 10 overlords. Okay, good, we realized. But let's
because they got so much money.
Well, as you should. Yeah, once you get past 100 supply, you never want to get supply blocked again. Let's see if we remember creep. Come on, creep on the top, creep on the top. You can build some spores.
I'm not used to that base.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so...
I think it will never happen. It will never happen.
I think this is also because you're not confident versus Mech. So it feels like you haven't been able to sink into your comfort zone. What's lacking here is rhythm, right? So there's like, when you're in control and you kind of know generally what the things are you need to do to win a game or to get into the position you want to get to, it becomes a checklist, right? Day 9 always talked about it as a mental checklist, call it a build order, whatever. It's just like a whole long list of shit that we need to do. But there's usually those rhythmical kind of macro rhythms, like inject, 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 build units, build overlords, spread creep, like, and spreading creep, I find for me, it's completely separate from the macro cycle. For a lot of people, they like to just add it at the end of the macro cycle. Everyone has their own little way of making it work, but it's kind of like whenever I'm I've got like, you know, a moment of downtime in between tasks. I'm like, go spread an entire wave of creep, and there's a sort of timer that goes on with it. And let's see if we can remember. Yes, okay. Ooh. You're manually clicking creep tumors there. Do you box a creep tumor when you spread creep, or do you just click on them?
I control click.
You do control click? Okay, I think you just control clicked on the first one because you only selected
or
one.
I box, or I'm boxing. So
Okay.
that's
Boxing's not the end of the world if it's just like a few of them on their own. But yeah, definitely. I like control click personally. I go control click and just spam them down. C shift click click click, I think is what I do. But yeah, okay, cool. But once again, because we're not in control, we spread creep on the bottom and we didn't spread it in the middle. So definitely that being an entire rhythm is important. I think no matter what, I'm sure you do this better some games. So now we're finally at the point where I've said, cool, there's a few small things we can tweak in the early game. A little bit of Overlord vision is huge, you know, a few less lings, getting a few more drones up in the third. This is nice, but generally, like, you're pretty safe. I like your timings. I like your mechanics. I like your techniques. What's missing here is the mech game plan, and that's what we really need to get into. So what do you want to focus on as your mech? At the moment, it's all over the place. You were saying Vipers is something you do sometimes do, but you feel like it takes too long. They get sniped with your micro. You lose your Vipers every fight. Against Battle Mech, against regular Mech, Tank Thor, Viking, you go Lingbane into Roach Ravager, Swarmhost, Roach Hydra Swarmhost, and then Hydra Broodlord. But neither of these plans you're particularly confident in, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. It depends a bit on luck, and that's I think it's unnecessary when I'm ahead to count on luck at some point.
Yeah, well, absolutely. We never want to. The moment we feel like everything rests on luck, it means we're not going to be very confident, are we? So
Exactly.
it's like, well, this is not a big confidence booster, is it? Okay, so let's talk about our verse mech plan a little bit. So definitely, I like Roach Hydra. I think Roach Hydra is really good. Hydra Bane can be really good as well, especially against Battle Mech. Even if it's a bit more micro-intensive, it's a beautiful composition. Off your opening, you're already opening up Queen Baneling. Queen Baneling, Hydra Bane. Hydra Bane versus regular mech. I'm running through scenarios in my head of where my advice is going to lead you into a dark pit of despair and losing all your MMR, and I don't think so. I think this is good. So I actually think we could probably just do Hydra Bane. We could probably do mass Hydra Bane into Broodlords. And Vipers if they have heavy air. I think that would actually be a good plan. And the reason is, it's not crazy micro-oriented in that we're not trying to go Hydra Bane Viper. Because I feel like Vipers don't work that well with Banelings. You're going to abduct units into your Banelings and they're just going to blow up one at a time.
Good.
Yeah. Hydra Bane is more of like anytime you catch them on siege, anytime you catch them in the open, anytime you can flank them and surround them on creep, anytime you can catch just a Battle Mech army up against a wall, Hydra Bane is an amazing composition. You roll into it and at most you click the Banelings or you have them on a different control group and you just try to guide them into the center of the Hellbats and Cyclones, and it's pretty basic. It's really not that hard. We can screw it up sometimes. Definitely, we can't be as blasé if they've got a ton of tanks and it's more traditional mech with Hydra Bane. But even then, if you catch them unsieged with Hydra Bane with a flank, like even mech, traditional mech armies get destroyed as well. And then going into Broodlords, the idea is it'll be a Broodlord Queen timing, mass Hydra Bane, 8 Broodlord. Plus bring every queen and rally corruptors for the finishing blow. Okay? So that way we've got kind of like a nice finishing blow. It's like, okay, it's Hydra Bane and Broodlords. A ton of queens there for transfuse. Like, we bring every single queen to the front, and that's usually what we're going to try and finish the game with. Now, is that a perfect always wins the game? No, but if we've played a good early game, it will do very, very well for us, and it should often win the game. So that's going to be really powerful because you're already opening up such fast Banelings. You've got kind of your double Evo Ling Bane setup. That goes into Hydra Bane very well, and the reason I like that is we don't really see a lot of like mass blue flame openings at the moment. I don't. Have you played against like a heavy mass blue flame opening recently? That's like the one problem. You don't really want to be opening Lingbane against. I guess we can just add a plan. If they go mass like 2-factory blue flame, make a roach warren and make a pack of roaches before going into this, okay? But otherwise, if it's standard battle mech, just Lingbane destroys it on creep. Lingbane Queen early on. Once you add Hydras in, you should be really good.
Okay.
So versus battle mech, you want to flank. Right? You want to split your army into 2 once you get to a decent size, and always look to cut off their retreat with a flanking attack. So basically, you just keep your 2 armies, one in the north, one in the south, that sort of thing, and they come forward, one army pulls back, the other one goes around to cut off the retreat. And then you can close on top of them. Obviously, the other thing is spreading creep. Spreading and respreading creep is vital. And the other thing is rolling 20 Banes at a time into their worker lines is a game winner. Because battle mech players often have like a billion bases, very little defense on them, because they're relying on their Hellions and Cyclones being dickheads like this guy is right now. This guy actually has a good siege tank count, so he's actually being a lot safer. And he's kind of got the BCs, but he's made it to pretty late in the game. At this point, we've given this player so much freedom, right? If they're on 5 bases with BCs harassing us on one side, Cyclone Hellion on the other side, and 7 siege tanks spread across 5 bases, we've probably screwed up a bit if we don't have, mass brood lords or swarm hosts or, some sort of epic late game army yet. So I think definitely we don't want to read too much into this specific replay at this point, but we want to kind of think about it if we rewind a bit in this game and we kind of say, well, let's go back to that 7-minute mark. Rather than going the Roach Warren and the Infestation Pit at this point, you would just go for the Hydra Den. If you wanted to go the Infestation Pit just to get towards the Hive Tech, you could do it. But I think we would have done a bit of a better job here of building more Banelings. We would have made another 6 or 7 Banelings and more Zerglings to keep us safe, because we're not relying on the Roaches. And this was actually what really cost you in this game, is you didn't build the extra defense, and then you droned up your 4th. And against Mech, you always know there's going to be more Hellions. In general, you should always have just a couple of Banelings, a couple of Zerglings, and that would have, of course, protected this base, which means you could have got the gases up here. And I think you would have been already starting Hydra upgrades. You would then start Hive and Spire at the same time. And you'd just basically be making this big Hydra Bane army, controlling the center, and just really pushing your creep out like crazy far. But we don't ever want to be in a position like this game where we were constantly just a little bit unprepared for every single wave that hit us. And because of that, we felt, like we were always on the back foot here. So I think if we just keep a Ling Bane force out at all times, even just a few Banelings and 10, 12 Zerglings is always enough to at least chase off Hellions for a little while. And that would be huge.
Okay. What was my question? Damn it. I forgot. Sorry.
No worries. It'll come back to you in a little bit. Just interrupt me whenever it pops into your mind.
Okay.
So we're going to go Hydra Bane as our default. Early on, Banelings are the defense, okay? So a lot of people go, oh, I've got a Hydra Den. Let's make 15 Hydras. Not important. Banelings are what defends you. So let's just understand that theory a little bit. The whole idea is you just need to basically... Heavy Bane counts are unengageable by battle mech on creep. So basically, they can come forward, pick off a few units, but then they need to get the hell out of there every time your Banelings come forward. So there's a dance of you running at them, then retreating as they get off creep, right? You run at them, they get off creep, you pull back. But because we have that secondary army going around, if they keep doing that too much, we will get the flank behind them, cut off their retreat, and crush their army, okay? And that's massive. Now, what is your ideal drone count? What do you think? If you're doing a big Hydra Bane, you're trying to go up into Broodlords off 4 bases, adding a 5th, how many drones do you like to add? What do you reckon, off the top of your head?
I'm usually I would always go between
I just wanted
74
to
and
hear
80.
Morty getting
That
in
would
the
be my
FM
ideal
car.
drone count. It's very
Awesome.
heavy, but that's
For a
my plan
Baneling
at least.
comp, that's actually great because Banelings are so expensive. They're a real wasteful unit, but they're very supply cheap. So you can actually you want to have a crazy economy against this style specifically. You want to just have an insane economy because if you get into a good enough position, remember what I said? You can just roll Banelings into their army, but you can also just roll masses of Banelings into their bases and get sick damage with it, and you'll wear them down. And then if you get one good flank attack, like you will crush their army and it's just game over. So I would actually say 75 is like the minimum you want with this style. So 75, even as high as 85 drones, is absolutely fine. So that's actually going to be really, really useful that you're already used to that sort of higher drone count. And yeah, just remember, always go Hive and Spire at the same time. Hive finishes start the Greatest Spire. So just make sure those are batched together so that there's not a huge amount of unnecessary delay, and you should be good. So we see here, Roach Hydra actually kind of flanks his army for once, and whilst he gets the hatchery snipe, this army just kills nothing. Like, it's such a shit army when it's trapped. Unfortunately, he's got mass battlecruiser by this time, so I think we can hop out of this replay.
I was about so upgrades will be melee and carapace, I guess,
Melee and
because of
range.
the banelings.
Melee and range.
range.
Yes.
Ah,
So
okay.
you want your
That does
Hydras
make-
to do damage as well. Yeah. You might already have a Carapace upgrade because you don't know it was Mech and you're just going melee Carapace, and then your it's
Yeah.
Mech, but your Carapace is already 3/4 of the way done. You're like, cool, we'll queue up +1 range after that. So yeah, generally it's all the attack upgrades because Cyclone Lock-On doesn't care about armor. Blue Flame, not the most important to get armor on Hydras, Zerglings, and Banelings against it. It doesn't usually change the maths on many attacks. Whereas being able to kill Thors, Hellions, Cyclones, tanks, everything quicker, very important. So yeah, especially siege tanks, armor does pretty much nothing against siege tank attacks because they do so much per hit. Same with Thors. So the attack upgrades are most important against Mech.
Okay.
Focus on attack upgrades, ranged and melee. Okay, so focusing on all that's going to be key. I'm thinking through all the different little things they can do to be annoying and whatnot. So for you, I've written down we need to split off and flank and try to catch them, right? So what do you think your control group setup should be? That's important to know this before the game starts. So you're going to have 2 armies of Hydra Bane, both just 2 separate control groups. We're not going to have the Banelings on a separate control group because that's too complicated. You don't want to have like, oh, my Hydra and Bane is 1, 2, and my other Hydra Bane is 3, 4. Like, no, that's silly. Just 2 big clumps of Hydra Bane. What do you reckon? 1 and 2 or 1 and 3? How do you?
Yeah. 1 and 2. 1 and 2 is
Okay.
good.
1 + 2 control groups. Awesome. That's fantastic. Knowing that's going to be really big. Yeah, the Baneling counters will be really huge as well. What about, okay, so versus traditional Mech. Versus traditional Mech, high tank counts. That can be hard to engage, right? That can be scary. So it's important. The same 2 control groups is actually perfect. Let's actually keep that as a habit. As soon as you get up to, beyond 10, 15 Hydras and 20 Banelings, you want to start splitting your army into 2 groups wherever possible, right? And that's amazing because when they push, if you're not ready to fight, you need to go and scare them and just force them to siege, right? Force them to siege up. So you just kind of show your army they've got to siege the tanks, right? And that's huge. And if they're slow to siege, still roll your Banes into the Hellbats. Like, if your army's just so much smaller, you still have to disengage, but you can still say, oh, grab those 10 Banelings and keep rolling them into the Hellbats because the tanks haven't sieged. You kill like 20 Hellbats with 10 Banelings and you're like, lol. If they're not spread out, Hellbats are so bad versus Speed Banes. It's insane. Yeah, but otherwise, basically, set up on both sides and pre-spread, then A move, preferably as they're leapfrogging a lot of the tanks. So if you see a lot of the tanks on siege, you know, you go for it. Sometimes it's just, I've got a big 270-degree spread, or like my army's just spread on the north and the south, and I've got all this surface area, and you come in, and if your army's spread out and coming from two sides, siege tanks, they just don't look nearly as good as units, and it can be amazing. So that can just change everything. That can be awesome. Awesome. Good stuff, man.
Okay.
Are there any other questions popping into your head that are floating around?
I got so much new information, so I'm overwhelmed. I think I will see how it goes, you know, and then probably I will. There will yeah.
There'll be many follow-up questions.
Some questions
sure.
will pop up. I think so.
So I'm writing your homework list at the top of the document as well. Continue.
Do you have maybe a timing for the macro hatch and the fourth?
When you have the minerals for it.
Okay.
I mean that's usually around the time you're adding all the gases on your bases. Like personally, I prefer to, especially if I'm against bio, I feel like getting the production up on those is one of the best ways to get ahead. So for me, it's like everything's off one gas, and then I'll over drone a little bit to the point where I'm actually, you know, even as I'm resetting the rally points, and I see my bases are all going red on drones, they're all getting above 16 a base, I might be like, yeah, I'll take the gases, but only after I go fourth base and macro hatch. Sometimes I do it the other way around. I think it really is just a preference thing. I think for you, it just choose, just after I take my gases, I put them on there. You know, basically it's as soon as you get the money around that point, or you could be like, no, I actually do it early because I want to get it set up. I think it's just important to come up with a rule that works for you. So what do you think the rule will be off the top of your head?
It's a good. I think it's a good idea to line it up with getting the gases.
I think a good benchmark. I think that should be fine. I think that should be absolutely fine. I think a good benchmark for you is 4 minutes 30. Let's try and have 8+ drones on our third base. So just a little benchmark, and keep pushing for more and more, especially in passive games. So that's like the big thing from the opening, right? Less zerglings early, faster droning on your third base, okay? And I've written a little benchmark for you to kind of look at your replays and see how you're going with that, just to get a feel for it. So that's one of your pieces of homework. The other one is going to be Hydra Bane versus Mech. Plus, so with that, Broodlords is like this nice finishing. I want you to do an exercise. 1 week of not allowed to go Hive or Broodlords. What? What do you mean, pig? Thought that was part of the build. Nope. You need to get good at Hydra Bane first. So, just non-stop Hydra Bane. And work on your run buys, you know, 20+ Banes into an expo. And your engagements. Okay. Taking the really perfect, nice Hydra Bane engagements, okay? Now, if you do end up going to Broods in some of your games, I guess I won't be too frustrated, but I really think forcing yourself, saying, look, it's not about winning or losing. This is going to, even games where you're winning, you're going to get more Hydra Bane versus Mech engagements, especially if you can't kill them with a Hydra Bane. If you're like, oh, he's still got too many tanks on the high ground, I got to wait, and like, what are you going to do? What does that allow you to practice? Number one, your creep spread is going to be so much better because whenever you've got control, you can really focus on your creep spread. Number two, more fights, more pushes to defend, more chances for you to set up awesome Hydra Banelings surrounds and flanks, okay? Number three, more chances to roll Banelings into mineral lines. And the thing is, a lot of people say they feel trapped when they have to stay on one composition. What this does is the best exercise to force you to get good at that composition, and Hydra Bane is the mid-game composition with the most longevity. With the right engagement, you can crush the best armies in the game with Hydra Bane. It is so good. So good. So I think this is a really good exercise for at least 1 week, maybe even longer. You might find you actually just win all your games with Hydra Bane and you stick with this long term. Yeah. I'm not even kidding. So Broodlords and stuff is more for down the line. For now, try to be a bit greedy with the opening. Try to get comfortable with the Hydra Bane and work on that. And I think this will be a great exercise for your progression.
Okay. In numbers, it's yeah, the Hydra count is not too high, right? So it's around, I would say 15 or something like that, or 20
Good question.
max.
Yeah, I think 15 to 20 is a good count. I think 30 is the absolute max ever, right? 30 is like the absolute max. And that's because you've got two separate squads, so you might actually be able to get enough surface area. Whereas if you have them all on one control group, 30 Hydras, like 1/3 of them are ever fighting. The rest are all stuck behind the other ones, right? Unless you've got a godlike
Yeah.
spread before the fight starts. So I think 15 to 20 is usually a good, pretty good rule. Because you're going pure Hydrabane, 30, yeah, let's say 15 to 30. And probably around the low 20s is probably the sweet spot usually.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll let you use your own judgment on that a little bit and adapt it. But definitely having an epic Baneling count, especially against heavy Hellion Cyclone counts, is very, very important. If they end up on like mostly tank Thor with no Hellions, obviously you can even have Zerglings in there, dude. You could even like, you still want some Banes, but you could even actually have Zerglings coming in and doing good stuff as well. But against those armies, like there's a point where it's pure tank and you don't really want to fight that with Hydra Bane, right? But that's why it's about counterattacking. It's about catching them on siege, coming in with perfect surrounds, all that sort of stuff. So you're going to learn a lot about this comp, and you're going to become one with the Hydra Baneling versus Mech. I think it should go really well, man.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Did we sort out payment for this session yet, or
No, we
we
didn't
didn't?
sort
Right?
out anything.
No
So,
worries. Can you message me on Discord afterwards, and also let me know if you wanted to set up another session and stuff, and we can sort that out later.
yeah, I will. What was the last one you said? Let you know about what?
If you want to set up another session, just shoot me a message.
Ah, yeah. Okay. Okay. I will do that. And we
Awesome.
agree on the payment and stuff like that. But it's basically it's already agreed. So
Yeah, no
fine.
worries. No, just
Okay.
seeing if you wanted to do the package or anything like that, it's fine. And just making
Yeah.
sure you the details. If you need the email, if you can't find the PayPal address and stuff, I can give that to you. But no worries, man. It's late at night. I'm gonna let you get to sleep. Read through the notes and practice it out tomorrow and the day after, and drop by Twitch chat and let us know how it goes, man.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and talk to you soon.
Talk to you later, mate. Good night.
And have a nice stream. Good night. Bye bye.
Cheers, mate. All right, good little sesh there to start off the day, guys. We did run